I think you may know this about me, but I am a firm supporter of the abolition of all drafts. I think particularly in the face of salary caps, they were unnecessary. Give teams salary slots that allow them to dish out more money, some more than others, if you want to retain the redistributive qualities of it. But in the end, I don't think the draft is necessary. I think it keeps wages down, but it's also now a television show, right? And at the same time, if we are going to have it, I love watching guys who decide that they're going to try to manipulate where it is that they want to go through various techniques of not working out for people, acting a donkey when you go to the place, right? You think you can make it work the way you want it to work. Okay. At the same time, I also love and appreciate somebody that's like, yeah, nice try, buddy. You're coming with us. And that is what happened here with the curious case of Ace Bailey that I talked to Lefko about on Wednesday. But, on one hand, it's hilarious that this dude was trying to get himself to go to the Wizards. Like that was the plan on purpose, is that you wanted to go to the Wizards. What's the logic here? Who's it? Because it's close to home. What advice is it that you're receiving that's like, I want to go to the Wizards? But instead, Danny Ainge was like, nice try, buddy. Welcome to Utah.
Yeah, and that was the other one, like Ace Bailey, and then Colin Murray Boyles was not too happy when the Raptors picked him, when he dropped a 4-letter word right when he got drafted.
He will be. Right? Don't you worry. He will be.
He's gonna be okay.
Yeah. He will find a way to enjoy Toronto one way or another. He will figure it out.
He'll be okay. So he needs to talk to some of his agents, some of his people around him about what it's like to be an NBA player in Toronto. He'll be okay. Salt Lake City, look. Will Hardy just got an extension, right? He just went through like in Shawshank Redemption when Tim Robbins is coming out of the sewer and he's just looking up and he got his extension because a lot of people around the league, they're afraid to take that job. They're afraid to take that rebuilding job because as soon as you start getting good, see ya, right? And so Will Hardy got the extension. So he came out the other side and he's got his deal. And now it looks like, all right, we're going to take Ace Bailey and we're going to shoot for a huge swing. They're going to take a huge home run swing in Ace Bailey because you saw what he did last year. He was a top 5 pick and he was on a losing Rutgers team with Dylan Harper as his star teammate. So this guy has not shown that he can be a winner at the collegiate level, and it's going to be a while. He is like a mold of clay, this dude. Ace Bailey looks like he should be a lot better in terms of impact than he showed last season. And so it's going to be a few years before I think he can start to deliver on his promise as being like this Tracy McGrady prototype, a Rudy Gay, just a really tall bucket getter in the mid-range. The thing about the Utah Jazz, though, Bomani, is they are one of these Missoula ball teams. They love taking threes and they hate the mid-range. There was a lot of games this season in which they didn't make a basket in the mid-range area, something that never would have ever happened 5 years ago. And I know we saw the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder live in the mid-range a little bit and take that in that dead zone, that analytics and a lot of sabermetrics folks, MIT Sloan analytics folks say, hey, that is not a high percentage shot. Only a few players can take that shot. Ace Bailey has not shown that he is that guy yet. And Will Hardy is a big believer in taking those shots behind the three-point line. So those things that Ace Bailey is really liking, the mid-range, those fadeaway jumpers on the baseline, he's going to have to wean that out of his system if he wants to play in this system.
What surprised me is that the people who have the advanced numbers, the predictive advanced metrics about college players, and Bailey seems to flunk those all the way across the board. That was the part that surprised me, with somebody taking him that high. And I guess the young Ainge is now the one who is making, a lot of these decisions there in Utah. But this felt like the kind of pick the old Ainge would make, in the sense that Danny Ainge is a basketball player with a tendency to look at guys and think about, well, what would I do if I had to guard that guy? And Ace Bailey strikes me as the sort of dude that players look at and are like, oh man, I can't do nothing with this.
Yeah. Yeah. Like DeMar DeRozan is somewhere in the realm of what you would want Ace Bailey to develop into, right? Guy who just gets to his spots and he's going to be a terror to guard because he's just a great shooter, tough shot maker. Same thing with Ace Bailey. A thing that statistically is a huge red flag for him is he has a really low assist rate and a really low steal rate. Steal rate, Bomani, is this secret sauce that if you look at steal rate in college hoops or steal rate for any level going into the NBA, it has a crazy good predictor of your NBA success. Like if you can get steals defensively, the numbers say that is a huge harbinger for success at the next level. And you can probably wrap your mind around why that might be the case. If you're getting a lot of steals, A, you try hard defensively. You're not sleeping on defense. 2, you have this great kind of sense of the game, basketball IQ about where the pass is going to go. And you have this ability to predict where the offense is going. And thirdly, you're physical. A lot of guys who want to make it at the next level, they got to play bigger. They got to play longer. They use their wingspan in ways that they can use to get turnovers. And steal rate is not one of his high qualities. Just 1.4 steals every 36 minutes. And that's something that VJ Edgecombe does really well and why I think Philadelphia really liked him. And the other side is 1.4 assists and 1.1 steals at the college level. So 1.4 assists every 36 minutes for Ace Bailey. Yikes. Big yikes if you want to play at the next level.
Now the counterpoint to that is Gilbert Arenas' point about his own son is, we'll worry about passing later. It feels like Ace Bailey has been told, just put him, just get these shots up, right? This is what you're here for. Now, I try not to get too draft nerdy in this because I think people generally don't care. And I do think that the super draft nerds get a little bit too caught up in stuff like the pick swaps, the protections, so forth and so on. But in a world where this exists, the New Orleans Pelicans, who Joe Dumars is now in charge, love Joe Dumars. Joe Dumars has a championship. He's coached very good teams. I mean, it has been the GM for some very good teams. They moved up 10 spots in the draft with their second first-round pick, from the 23rd pick to the 13th pick, and they traded away their first-round pick next year, but in a way that is very uncommon in NBA trades, unprotected, which is to say no matter where that pick lands, the Pelicans have no control over their pick. So if the Pelicans are not doing well next season and decide they want to go young and get a bad record as a result, it doesn't matter. They don't get the picks. All you guys that really do this do exactly what Tom Haberstroh just did right there and put his hand in his head and leaned back and was mad frustrated by the eye that they did it. Now, I'm going to hear your take on it, and then I'm going to throw something out there that I don't know if you have heard. You go first.
Okay. I feel like David Stern tried to rise from the grave and block this trade, just like he did way back with Chris Paul to the Lakers. David Stern would never have let this happen, because when you're looking at the trade, the key here is that it is a swap. They can actually swap with the Milwaukee Bucks. It's going to be the best pick between the Pelicans and the Bucks next year, Bomani. So if the Bucks decide, hey, we're going to blow it up, we're going in a different direction, Giannis, we're trading Giannis, that Milwaukee Bucks pick with no Damian Lillard next season could be extremely valuable. And so even if it's New Orleans unprotected, I'd be like, man, that's a tough way to move up 10 spots. But they actually doubled their odds. The Atlanta Hawks doubled their odds of having a great pick by having the ability to have the most favorable pick between the Pelicans and the Bucks. So it's not just that they got an unprotected pick, it's that they got the ability to exchange that if the Bucks somehow, something happens to Giannis, something happens with Milwaukee, and they go, hey man, I know that New Orleans pick could be 10, but that Bucks pick just won the lottery. We're going to take that. So it's basically they traded up 10 spots for 2 hacks at the lottery, potentially winning the lottery.
I think that they being the Pelicans, that they got a super duper steal with, I think it was Derek Queen that they took.
Yep, Derek Queen from Maryland. Yep.
Okay. Have you seen the quote that Kevin Willard, who now coaches at Villanova but coached at Maryland last year, had about Derek Queen?
What's the quote?
He said that he believed, this is wild. Okay. He said that he believed that if Derek Queen were white and from Europe, that he would be the number 1 overall pick in the draft. Okay. Now, I feel like it's one thing to big up your guy. You must really, really, really believe what you are saying or who you got if you say something like this. Is this a possibility? Because Dumars said after the draft, he's just like, look, man, if you see the guy and you want the guy, you go get the guy. He was like, we're taking 2 picks in this draft, right? Now, I agree with you. You have the possibility of moving way up next year and all that stuff. But he seems super duper sold on who the guy is that they have. And if you feel sold on him in, the part that you can't predict, if you think Zion Williamson is going to give you 70 games this year, then your pick is not going to be bad, right? Like maybe that's what it is. I would be very curious to know if after the draft, they told Dumars about what you said about it actually being 2 chances. And he was like, damn, why ain't y'all tell me? I ain't know that.
Hey, come on, man. Like I didn't realize the Bucks was in there too. Like that might be most.
Y'all just said it was ours.
That might be like the most valuable 2026 pick because of that Bucks factors. Because we don't know, like that Giannis Antetokounmpo, even though he has not put on the trade block, he certainly hasn't said I'm a Milwaukee Buck for life. So you can talk yourself into that he's not going to be put on the trade block. But the opposite is also true. That it has been a long enough time for Giannis Antetokounmpo to get out here and be like, hey, I know all the rumors, but I'm going to be a Wisconsinite for life. I'm here for the long haul. He has not done that. So until that happens, maybe this is okay. But remember, it gets worse, Bomani. They didn't have the 23 pick coming into this about a week ago. They traded the Indiana Pacers. They made a trade with the Indiana Pacers to get their 23rd pick a week ago. June 17th, the Pacers wanted next year's pick. And they got the 23 pick, the New Orleans Pelicans did. And the Pacers were like, all right, we'll get next year's pick. We'll trade you ours this year. Because, how valuable could our pick next year be? And 2 days later, Tyrese Halliburton tears his Achilles. So if Joe Dumars and Troy Weaver, who's the GM underneath Joe Dumars, had just waited a week, that trade is a lot different. So the Indiana Pacers, they got a top 4 protected pick next year from New Orleans. So you could be looking at a case in which New Orleans, in order to get Derek Queen, they traded the number 5 pick and the number 1 pick next year. That is best case scenario for Atlanta and Indiana. But in New Orleans, if they just sat there, man, they could have had that 5 pick, the number 1 pick, what have you. If Indiana keeps that pick, it's a whole different story. On Derek Queen and that quote, it's a hilarious quote. I'm not going to get into the look, Derek Queen's good, right? But you have to understand, I mentioned Troy Weaver, Bomani. Troy Weaver is a DC area guy. He was on the Washington Wizards staff last year. And who is his son? Oh, it's the Maryland grad assistant. And from what I've read, Troy Weaver, the GM of the New Orleans Pelicans, while he was in DC area, was at basically every practice of Maryland last year because his son was on the coaching staff. And so this isn't just a, hey, we like this guy. It's I know this guy. I saw him every day and I was at most of his games at Maryland. And so I have already built this relationship through my son and living in the DC area. And so to me, it's like they knew this when they acquired that Indiana pick at number 23 a week ago. They knew they wanted to get Derek Queen, and they figured if we can get the number 23, maybe we can parlay a future first to get the 15 and get him with that pick, and they did. I just think that's way too much draft capital to give up, way too much downside in giving up this dude that to me, it's like, yeah, you got to see him. That's all good, man. But did y'all forget you're in New Orleans? Like, this dude has weight and conditioning issues. And we saw what happened with Zion Williamson as soon as he got to New Orleans. And now you're getting Derek Queen? Come on, man. You got to remember where you're at. It's in New Orleans. It's a Big Easy. Come on.
Let me tell you, Zion Williamson could have been in, I don't know, Laos, Myanmar, all kinds of places. He still had same problems.